Welcome back on Darkenss. Today I want to propose you a video about the unboxing review about the White Dwarf issue from 84, released by the Aggressor Shop the January 2023. So this is the first White Dwarf of the new year, and sincerely, it's not of my favorite White Dwarf. Still, there are a lot of things that are really quite interesting. We can start from this, that it's related the cover about the Space Marines, the chaotic ones, and it's mainly related about the boarding actions. This is a sort of variation of Kill Team, and sincerely, I don't like so much because in my mind, when I think about something related about boarding action, I think about the Space Hulk, and there's has a lot of things related. So this is quite nice because there are a lot of more background, a lot of new things inside. Still, about playing the game, I tend to search for that game that sincerely I think that it's much better. But I suggest you to try at least. Here there are a lot of things that you can watch about the boarding action, and so I think that it's worth a try, at least to know what we are talking about, because knowing this type of game can make you really glad about and try to play with it. So I suggest you at least, even if I say that I don't like too much such White Dwarf, to try to see if it's worth buy it. Eventually try to read something that it's about the game, so that you can understand if it's something that you are really looking for, or simply you can skip and you only paid for the White Dwarf to find if you are interested about, because it's something that it's not completely different, but at the same time it's something that it's something new that it's worth a try. So try to have your own idea about, because I think that this is quite something that you have to understand by yourself. It's if worth or not to go to play and be interested about. So try about it. So now we can see the contents about the White Dwarf itself. Here you can see the alternative cover that it's quite nice. It's the same that we have seen here, simply without the writing. And remember that you can have such type of cover if you subscribe to the White Dwarf. And if interested, I suggest you. But remember that this is the one that we've seen, the main one, so the cover itself, without any writing. I like these images that are like this. Here it's, I can say, introduction about the White Dwarf itself. There are two things that are inside the inserts of such White Dwarf. This is this, that it's about details for the game, so for the boarding action. And there is another one that is this, that is the planning for how it can be worked, the process along the year, how you can combine to create your new army and so on. And inside here there is a side screen, a back screen, so that you can use this as a back for making your photos and so on, so to make them personalized. It can be quite useful, so it's quite nice. Eventually you can even photocopy it or so on if you want. So from here we can move and we can see, so here the contents. I like such images, and really this one, it's something that we can see inside the White Dwarf stuff, but I'd like to make a sort of scan, a sort of photo and so on, eventually also with your smartphone, and then use eventually as the background for your computer or so on, because I really quite like this. So after this we can move and we can start about the mailing list of the readers to the team of the White Dwarf itself. Here, as usual, I suggest you to see this. You can read eventually if you want, but what I like are the scheme of colors, the modifying and so on that are here. These are quite simple bases, but quite nice. And you can find also here little bases, but there can be a good personalization. If you move here, these are always the same, but here we can see this scheme of color that could be interesting eventually. Or here, the basin, here such building that can be quite intriguing. Also here, the scheme of colors eventually, if you're interested. So there are a lot of things to see about. And here we can find an article related about how the humans live in the universe of Warhammer 40k. And sincerely, I suggest you to read, because it can be really quite intriguing about, because it makes you understand the life of the Imperium. And it's something that it can be interesting, really, quite interesting. Here we can move on the Warhammer 40k itself, and I like such type of images, even if Cadia has fallen and not fallen at the same time. Here the image that I told you about before at the beginning, that it's in the contents, and sincerely I prefer that one than this, that it's cut in such a way, because it's better. Still, here we have an introduction about the arc omens made by the designers themselves, so I think that it's quite interesting to understand how the game works, so it can be quite intriguing. And moreover, such images are always amazing. I really love such ones. And you can find a lot of information, so if you're interested about Arc Omen, or at least curious about, I suggest you to read about. Here we have some background related, because we have this, that it's a flashpoint related about the Arc of Omen, with how it works and so on, the background. There are quite a lot of news here that can be really quite intriguing, and sincerely I suggest you to take note, because there are a lot of information that it's worth about. Here we had new missions that are related about the game of Arc of Omen, so we can understand how they work, what they are. Here we have these that are ties specific for such missions, as I told you about before, and it can be really quite intriguing about eventually to use and so on. I don't like such type of inserts, because I prefer them outside of the White Dwarf, because it may be a bit useless to make a side of the White Dwarf. It's problematic with this behavior voice, but okay. Here we can find that there are quite a lot of missions to eventually play and so on, with this disposition about the shinic elements and so on, so, and the ties themselves, so it can be quite interesting. As you can see, there are quite a lot of them. It's a sort of mini campaign eventually to play with. And here we have a description about the game itself, so we have a presentation about the game, how it's done and so on, so it can be quite intriguing. I like such images, but about these models of the Space Marines, the Aggressors, the Blood Angels ones, I eventually suggest you to see in the description, because I made my monetization about them and could be quite useful eventually, and I love such models, so it can be quite interesting here. And here we had the Tactica about from the same author that we have seen before, and can be interesting to understand how you can play the game and so on, and know a bit better about it, because at least they may know you about how to play. Here an analysis about how you can play and so on, how to use for a mission particular one, so it can be quite intriguing if you're interested about to understand better how it works with the various description. It's a sort of a lot of news about playing in a single image, so quite useful. And here a battle report, and this is related about Kill Team, but using the boarding game elements, as you can see, so I think that can be quite useful to know. And we can also see about the composition, eventually some modify and so on, so it's useful about that one. And really you can find that there are a lot of information and sites eventually, because with this battle report you can understand how it's played the game, so I think that it's quite nice. And really here it's something that you'd have to watch, or at least to try to read if you're interested about playing, because it's quite useful, I think. And here we have this, that it's about a sort of little campaign that is done with the Kill Team, so we had different teams and so on battle against each other, and I think that it's quite nice, because it's a way to understand how they compose the teams and so on. These are the ones that we see also before eventually, so it's really quite intriguing, and I suggest you eventually to understand better them, because they can be a good lead about how to play the Kill Team eventually. Game that I don't play, remember, so I'm not interested about. Here the briefing, so how it can be worked and so on about the game and the objectives of Kill Team, so it's another sort of how to play with the game, so it's quite amazing about Kill Team. And here then we have the Age of Sigmar part. Here we have this, that it's background. It's really background related about the fresh points that we are going to have, so Rondol, and can be quite intriguing. The images are amazing, and the test it's really quite full of information that you could be interested about. And here we have the underworld underground world. So we can find what it's also in the new Journal Handbook 2022-2023 Season 2 that has also the rules about the underground world, so it can be quite intriguing because we had the campaign here and could be interesting to play with, understand how to play and so on. So it's really something that even if you haven't bought the Journal Handbook yet, it could be quite intriguing to understand better. Eventually, also to try to play some type of different game, so quite nice. Here we had the Flashpoint Rondel with the part related about the background, that it's always quite amusing. With this that I like because this it's a Star Drake with this part that it's from a Great Demon of Corn, so it can be quite interesting to combine and so on. So it's an inspiration about how you can play with. Here we've seen before it's about how to do, and this about how to plan eventually the paint and modify. Here a sort of screen behind the miniatures. Here this that can be interesting about also some little modifying also things, and the scheme of colors that could be quite intriguing about such. Also this can be, I like such type of really grey one schemes, I really like. And there are a lot of things. Also this one, it's quite simple as playing, but really such base, it's quite amazing. Here we have this that it's Aurach, but I want to remind you that this it's okay because it's the model of Aurach, but Aurach it's this big. I make you see the one that I painted, and the one that has been done this it's the one about the shining future of the anti-king, that I perfectly understand that it's played in such a way, but it's such big, such is the difference of the models, so this can be put here, so big it is. It's something that you have to pay attention. Yes, I'm trying to recover this and bring the models, the conversion up, because I wanted to bring up more of such models, but anyway, remember about such that can be intriguing, but you have to understand if you want to use this as a Shining Future or a model, because if you are going to play in a match play, you have to have at least the base big as the original one is, so pay attention about that. Here a vampire with the wings, not so difficult one eventually to create, since it's quite common for me to see such things. Here also other things that can be quite nice. I like such snow type of models, really. And then we can move to see these that are new rules about Warcry. As I said for the kill team, also for Warcry I don't play it usually, so I'm not quite interested, but there are a lot of info eventually about, and the ones that play Warcry will surely be interested about such rules, because they are also quite important and quite a lot. Here about Underworld, and so a lot of things related about Underworld that again I don't play, but I like to collect some of the boxes about Underworld because I like the models, so those ones I perfectly like and they are amazing. I'm not interested about the game itself, that's my opinion eventually. And here about report about Middle Earth, so it can be quite useful for the ones that want to understand how it's played eventually Middle Earth, or want to see some nice shining here, such images that can be really inspirational about. And it's a way also to present the new shining features that has been released or are going to be released quite soon about the Middle Earth, and I think that it's quite nice. So there are a lot of things that can be really inspirational part about. And then we have the part, we can continue here also about the part about inside the studio. As you've seen, it's missing the part about the Black Library, and it's quite a pity, because sincerely I like to have those parts inside, because it's a way to know new autos, new eventually the autos that I yet know, maybe try to present new armies and so on. So it's a bit of pity about that one. So okay, here we have inside the studio that it's a little about what we see in the next videos about the White Dwarf, so the next White Dwarf. And I like such one, for example, that it's the normal zombie dragons, but made here like this. It's quite intriguing about. And so in the next issue we see about the board in action battle report. So what we're seeing here, it's about the rules, presentation and so on. Instead, in the next one will be about the board in action, and I think that we can yet see that it will be something related maybe about the Imperial Guard, the Destra Militarum against the heretic chaotic ones, Space Marines. It will be quite intriguing to understand better about that. So what to say about such White Dwarf? Sincerely, I think that it's not completely my taste. There are a lot of things, not misunderstand me, because there are a lot of things related about Kill Team, surely a lot. There are a lot of things to introduce you to the boarding actions that for sure are quite useful, because it's something new and will be quite intriguing. So read about this eventually, because it can be a good way to understand if you're interested about. And eventually also the next one that will be related about having the battle report about board in action, that for sure will make you see better if it's worth the play and you can be interested about. There are a lot of things new one for the Warcry, so again I like more the things that are related about the conversion song, because I think that are more interesting to talk about. Still, it's up to you to decide if it's worth for you such White Dwarf, but there are a lot of things inside. So even if it's not completely my taste, I don't, I can say, regret to have bought this, because there are a lot of ideas that come to me seeing this, and sincerely, I like. Anyway, I like. It's a little less, in my opinion, worth than other White Dwarfs that I've seen, but it's not completely unworthy. It's simply less worth because I prefer other things, but it's quite nice, has a lot of content about rules, about background, see about the background that we've seen about the underworld battles and so on. That also that one it can be about the rules and about the background and so on, quite useful. So in that way I suggest you to take note, because there are a lot of pages related, so nice. Anyway, from Dynamod it's everything. I invite you to put a like on this video, to subscribe to the channel, to ring the bell, and to comment this video if you are interested in something about this video or you want to suggest me some arguments for other videos. I hope to see you again to the next time.